Hey everyone, and welcome to RUBIN'S Mind Lab, where we break down the latest research into what it really means. Ever wondered what truly makes someone successful, especially when they're from a group that often faces challenges? Well, this new study dives deep into the mindset of highly successful Māori individuals, and it is pretty fascinating. So, we often hear about how Māori people in New Zealand who are indigenous face a lot of disadvantages compared to non-Māori. This can sadly lead some people to think they're less capable, creating a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. But this isn't the whole story, right? A growing number of researchers are looking at what helps Māori succeed instead of what holds them back. Much of this research has focused on young Māori students. But what about the highly successful Māori adults, the world-class athletes, entrepreneurs, scientists, and leaders who have achieved amazing things despite the obstacles? This study wanted to find out what beliefs these successful adults hold about success itself. The researchers thought that maybe it is their mindset, their fundamental beliefs about success, that plays a huge role. Think about mindsets like these beliefs about intelligence, stress, or even willpower. They shape how we think about why things happen, what we expect to happen next, and what we should do. Decades of psychology research show that these mindsets are super important for motivation, behavior, and how well we perform. And here is a cool part: mindsets, while pretty stable, can actually be changed. Exposure to new information that promotes a more helpful mindset can shift how we see things and even how we react. For example, people who believe stress is enhancing rather than debilitating are more likely to bounce back under pressure. So the big goal here was to explore what successful Māori believe about success, where these beliefs come from, and if they add up to a genuine success mindset. This research aims to shed light on successful Māori adults, which hasn't been done much before. It also wants to expand our understanding of mindsets by looking at the domain of success itself and hopefully offer a foundation for developing programs that can help Māori achieve their aspirations. To get these insights, the researchers talked to 10 highly successful Māori individuals. They used interviews, which are a great way to really dig into someone's beliefs and experiences. They also made sure to do this research in a way that respected Māori culture and values, using something called Kaupapa Māori principles, which essentially means putting Māori perspectives and ways of doing things at the center. They recruited these participants through professional connections and by asking people to refer others, which is helpful for finding people who might typically be hard to reach. The interviews themselves were semi-structured, meaning they had a guide of questions, but also allowed for a natural conversation to unfold. This method is great for exploring knowledge, beliefs, motivations, and what things mean to people. They made sure the interview guide was reviewed and approved by a Māori consultation group to ensure it was appropriate and respectful. The interviews followed a process that included introductions, building rapport, explaining the purpose, having the core discussion, and then closing, all done with manaki, which means care. They got informed consent, recorded the interviews, and then transcribed them word for word. For analyzing all that rich interview data, they used a method called codebook thematic analysis. Think of it like this: they started with some ideas and expectations based on their research questions and the mindset framework, like looking for influences and how success is understood. Then, as they read through the interviews, they also let new themes and ideas emerge from the participants' own words. They discussed their interpretations regularly to make sure they were on the right track and refined their understanding. And importantly, the researchers practiced reflexivity. This means they were really aware of their own backgrounds and how that might influence their research. One researcher, who is of Chinese background, approached the data with cultural humility, making sure to honor the participants' meanings. The other researcher, who is Māori, was also mindful of his positionality and how it might affect participants' responses. They even acknowledged that participants might have felt some pressure to give positive answers when talking about success. This self-awareness is crucial for good qualitative research. So after all that work, what did they find? 3 main beliefs about success really stood out. The first belief was Angitu, which translates to success is impact. Participants consistently said that success isn't just about personal achievements or titles, but about making a difference. One person put it perfectly: success is not measured across time and titles, but by impact. They talked about wanting their work to create change, to make a difference, and to be a resource for others. Not just for personal gain, it was about the collective impact, not individual accolade. The second key belief was Angitu, meaning success is relational. This means success isn't seen as existing within an individual, but rather in the connections between people. Participants talked about success being about connection and knowing who you are. They emphasized the importance of family and community, with one person stating that a lot of money but a dysfunctional family wouldn't be considered successful. The idea of success extended beyond immediate family to include thriving communities with a strong sense of we before me, rather than the more individualistic Western approach. They felt that truly successful people are available to their communities, working for the people and upholding community values. Providing security and choice for family was also a big part of this relational view. And the third belief was Hinengaro wakamoati Angitu, which means success is trajectory. This is the idea that success isn't a final destination, but a continuous journey of development that unfolds over time. Participants described success as ongoing movement, where persistent setbacks and sustained direction are just normal parts of the process, not barriers. They saw failure not as fatal, but as a part of the journey that teaches you what to do differently. Success in this view happens slowly and cumulatively, and a quick success isn't seen as sustainable. This belief in success as a trajectory also strongly connected to intergenerational thinking. Many participants felt their success was about being a good ancestor, about continuing a lineage, and that their ancestors were with them on this journey. They felt compelled to represent their heritage in a credible way, seeing themselves not in isolation but as part of a long line of ancestors and future descendants. Some even spoke of their ancestors leaving footsteps to follow, creating pathways for the next generation. This perspective really highlights persistence, resilience, and a long-term view. Now, where do these beliefs come from? The study identified 4 main influences. First, Wano and Kaupapa, meaning family and genealogy, played a huge role. Early family environments shaped notions of responsibility, community, and collective orientation. Grandparents and parents often modeled success as care, dignity, and a strong work ethic, rather than just material achievement. Messages about education and success were also delivered in community settings like the marae, with a strong emphasis on breaking negative stereotypes. Cultural grounding through tikanga or Māori protocols also shaped these beliefs, with success seen as living in alignment with principles and obligations, often in service of others. Second, encounters with institutions and systems like schooling and workplaces prompted participants to rethink conventional definitions of success. Many described adopting and then rejecting or reframing dominant, economically focused success beliefs after their own experiences. Some found that academic difficulties weren't about personal inadequacy, but a mismatch between their learning style and the system. They learned to question externally imposed ideals and redefine success in terms of impact, contribution, and alignment. Third, deliberate self-authorship was crucial. Participants talked about intentionally shaping their beliefs about success through reflection, decision-making, and personal resolve. They described moments of conscious choice where they decided what success would mean for them, actively choosing beliefs that aligned with their experiences. Sometimes this came from overcoming early challenges or seeing what they wanted for themselves and their families. And fourth, mentorship and exemplars were important. Participants learned about success by observing and being guided by mentors, elders, and respected figures. They watched how these individuals carried themselves, treated others, and sustained their impact. They learned that success could be enacted through service and connection, often by surrounding themselves with people who shared similar values. So to bring it all together, these 3 beliefs, success as impact, success as relational, and success as trajectory, didn't just exist on their own. They worked together consistently. When you look at how these beliefs shaped participants' goals, expectations, and how they explained the outcomes, it really suggests the presence of a success mindset. The researchers call this Hinengaro Angitu, which they say can be interpreted as the success mindset or the successful mind. This Hinengaro Angitu mindset acted like a compass, guiding what goals were seen as appropriate. Participants focused on goals that created impact beyond themselves, supported family and community, and created pathways for others. Conventional achievement goals like titles were often seen as just tools to enable greater impact. Goals that harmed relationships or values were rejected. The mindset also shaped expectations. These successful individuals anticipated both success and ongoing difficulty. Resistance, barriers, setbacks, and slow progress were expected parts of success. not inconvenient bumps in the road. Importantly, failure and the need to adapt were seen as coexisting with the expectation that success would eventually be achieved. And finally, Hinengaro Angitu influenced how they explained their successes and failures. Success and failure were mostly attributed to hard work, persistence, preparedness, and collective factors, rather than just talent or luck. And as expected, failure wasn't seen as a deterrent, but as something instructive and essential for growth. This pattern of beliefs, expectations, attributions, and goals strongly supports the idea that this is a real success mindset. One participant's quote really sums it up. The way that I look at what success is when my work uplifts our people. It strengthens Kaupapa, and it opens doors for the next generation. That's what drives service before leadership. This research is really significant because it is the first in-depth study to look at the beliefs of highly successful Māori adults. It moves beyond just looking at students and expands our understanding of mindsets into the domain of success itself. Now, like any study, this one has its strengths and weaknesses. The qualitative interviews allowed for deep exploration. The sample was balanced in gender and came from diverse backgrounds. However, recruiting through networks might mean they talked to people with similar views, explaining why the beliefs were so consistent. Also, doing interviews online might have missed some nuances of in-person interaction. And as acknowledged, participants might have felt socially desirable pressure to report highly positive experiences. The findings suggest a mindset, but it is still preliminary qualitative evidence. So what is next? Future research needs to build on these findings. We need more quantitative studies to test the structure of this mindset, see how it relates to other mindsets like the growth mindset, and understand how it shapes goals and expectations over time. Given that mindsets can be changed, there is a lot of potential for developing interventions that can effectively support Māori success. In conclusion, understanding what drives Māori success is key to countering negative portrayals. This study has identified a powerful set of beliefs among highly successful Māori that appear to form a success mindset, Hinengaro Angitu. This research contributes to a strength-based view of Māori success, expands our understanding of mindsets, and lays the groundwork for future work. It really highlights how our core beliefs about success can profoundly shape our journey, and how these beliefs are deeply intertwined with our culture, our communities, and our ancestors. What are your thoughts on this success mindset? Does it resonate with you? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to Rubin's Mind Lab for more insights, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next episode. Thanks for watching.